Live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts right now.
Oh, don't we just love it that when we are back from a holiday, especially Thanksgiving, I hope all of you guys have had a great, amazing, blessed, and festive Thanksgiving as Jake the Snake Silva from the Snake Sports Talk Show is on Spotlight Sports Network. And joining me in place of Darian Hopkins as well is Key Williams. Key in the building, as she always is. Here on the show. It's so good to have every single one of you on here, and of course having Key into the building. How was your Thanksgiving, Key?
Oh, I can't complain, Jake. It wasn't bad. Had some good pie, which I'm still eating, by the way. But everything was good.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were just kind of thinking, where I was at the whole time. I enjoyed such a great time. Out in California, there was a little spot there called Kern River. It's like, one of those small town areas just kind of close to Bakersfield. Very, very gorgeous. I mean, the sun was out, gorgeous weather all the way through. It's really, really good. I enjoyed myself. Nice to get out of the desert here and there. But we have so much to talk about. I mean, the Thanksgiving games, Dallas apparently just doesn't like to win on Thanksgiving, apparently. And what a close game it was for the Bears. But I think there's going to be a lot of question marks going into the offseason, but the rest of the games, I think we have a clear code of what's going to be happening here as we're live on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and of course also on Instagram, where you can like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social medias here on the Spotlight Sports Network and everywhere around.
And we're on ASAP as well.
Yep, we're also up on the ASAP Network, so definitely subscribe and follow ASAP Network as well. So we're on all sorts of platforms today, but we're so packed and we just have a lot of stuff going on. But you know what's funny? And we learn about this in life. I'm going to talk about this, but we know that I do believe in that action does come reaction. There is a lot of that in our lives. And what's funny about this, all of us have been reacting the whole time throughout the entire NFL season because our teams are not exactly playing as they should be, or there's injuries, or there's COVID tests, or there's so much of it. We're in a reactionary time all throughout the nation. You know what's funny is that there's one team that is not clearly reacting as much. The Green Bay Packers, even with wins and losses, they're not reacting. They are not reacting to any of those wins and losses. They didn't even react when Aaron Rodgers ended up going on the COVID list. And then there's a bunch of this investigation here and there on how they were going to end up managing and playing out all these rules. The other part was they didn't end up reacting after they lost a bunch of Pro Bowlers. Corey Linsley, lots of other really good big-time names, even Christian Kirksey. They didn't react to that. They didn't even react when they lost 6 of their best players due to injury. They still managed to win a game and still managed to keep it close. My thought on Green Bay this morning, or, as I'm out at work, is that I think it's clear that this could be the team that really wins it all the way. Not reacting to any injuries, not reacting to wins and losses, neither reacting to the entire Aaron Rodgers situation. But what's funny and what's unique about Green Bay versus everyone else in this league, Kansas City was freaking out because of their atrocious defense.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers are freaking out because the fact that Christian McCaffrey now is out for the entire season. He's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bunch of other injuries, COVID tests, everything that's been kind of spoiling everyone's fantasy hopes, I'm sure. But Green Bay hadn't reacted to either one of those. They stuck to the plan. They know exactly who their core players were going to be and who they are. And all throughout this time, it's worked out beautifully for them. There has been no such reaction whatsoever from Green Bay. They didn't even react to the point when Aaron was being arrogant Aaron. Everything had to be about him. They knew what the plan was. But all throughout it, this is what a true team looks like. They're the ones that do not react to wins and losses. These are the ones that don't react to injuries. They don't even react to losses after signings. That's it. I know a lot of people get sick and tired of hearing about the Green Bay Packers, but this is honestly what it looks like. That's what's true. Why do you think people aren't really sure about Kansas City? Why do you think people aren't really sure about the Rams? Why do you think they're not so sure about all the rest of the other teams? The Chargers, the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens. They're not sure about any of the teams that are in the AFC, neither in bits and pieces of the NFC. I think it's a clear choice. I think Green Bay may end up winning this thing this year because of everything that's been happening. And honestly, what Green Bay should be doing from this point forward, give Aaron an extension, make him happy, give him what he wants, because once Aaron's out of the building, they are an irrelevant team.
Yep.
You saw that the second that Jordan Love was playing. That's not going to be the same exact team. And mind you, Aaron didn't come in until the third year after his rookie season. He didn't end up coming in after once Brett Favre was gone. So this is the same scenario when you look at Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers. If Jordan Love needs to have a third year to figure things out, then maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. But until then, give Aaron what he wants. Make him happy. I'm just like, the Packers coming back, like, especially, they didn't react even the loss against Minnesota and Kansas City, and they still managed to win the games that they knew were important. I think it was just really interesting this week. I just think that was exactly the team, you trust your gut, they're going to end up winning it. Like, it was nuts. Even against the Cardinals, like, they even beat Arizona in that game. So I feel like it's a clear. I feel like it's a clear.
Arizona, but okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's a clear choice. But yeah, I was just like, oh man, loved it.
I mean, the Arizona shouldn't have lost that game against Green Bay, but that's another story. AJ Green didn't turn around for the ball.
Yep. Yeah, right. So let me tell you this. So everybody in Southern California has got to be loving it today, aren't they? They've got to. Because of the fact of, it's not even just all the specific major sports, but everybody is excited and happy, and they're like, finally, after all these years, we are no longer going to end up being the middle of the pack type of program. We're actually going to get back to where we are today. So the reports is that USC has hired one of the big fish in college football is Lincoln Riley after 5 years of being with Oklahoma. So I truly think, and this is what's funny about USC. USC, folks, let's be honest. When I grew up watching the Pete Carroll era, and I loved it, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lendell White, Dwayne Jarrett, there was a bunch of big-time name pieces, and every single one of them clicked. The difference between Alabama and USC in those types of eras, you look at the Nick Saban era right now. You have a bunch of players who are great right now, instead of them being great in the NFL. The only exceptions to the rule is Jalen Hurts and Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. That's it. And then a bunch of them, like their top corners, the top corners, here's the thing. Patrick Surtain, I think, is a hit in Denver. He's a big-time hit. I think at some point Jerry Jeudy will be a big-time hit when more and more of the times he gets the reps. And then on top of it, you've got Devontae Smith being a hit. So Alabama knows exactly their players, but they made them
Najee
great
Harris.
now. Yeah, Najee Harris. And so you look at a lot of them, and they're great now in college, but it's questionable when it comes to the NFL. USC was different. They looked at them as great, and they still came out great in the NFL. Isn't it interesting? Lendell White would probably be an exception to the rule because there were times of injuries. We remember those times in Tennessee. He did not end up running the football very efficiently. There was injuries, and that's where the rest of them, Reggie Bush, became a big-time hit in New Orleans and was part of that Super Bowl run. Then there was also Matt Leinart, who was a big-time miss that everybody remembers in Arizona. And it's hard to be a successful left-handed quarterback in this league. It's very difficult. But what I'm getting at is, think of the Pete Carroll era and how that all worked out. They had a ton of hits, and they were all over the big time channels. They were all on ESPN. They were on ABC. They were on NBC. Everywhere that you were at, television ratings were big for USC. And there were times where they were big for the SEC when it came to Florida, when it came to Bama, and so on and so forth. You know the pick. You know the whole era. But since then, Pete Carroll takes the job to Seattle and changes the entire Seahawks organization and their culture. And on top of all that, they win a Super Bowl. But what's also interesting is you had the Reggie Bush scandal with the fact of not having the best grades in school and was still playing toward his Heisman Trophy year. So everybody remembers that story and the punishment they took from it. Never having any bowl games for 2 years. And then they were losing a lot of these recruits.
Yeah.
So a lot of the recruits, and what's funny about all of the county areas in California, you go from top to bottom. I mean, the Cal Tri-State area. I mean, it's loaded with talent. 4 5-star recruits. Anybody ever watch CIF? I mean, you ever watch some of those kids in the California leagues for high school? They are top-notch competitive. They love their football. Outside of Texas, California loves their football. So I think this is a great thing for USC because it gets them back to being, at some point, a reboot, not a rebuild. Because ultimately, they needed to have the best top-notch recruiters being out there in the Southern California area. Because why would somebody from Los Angeles, one of the kids in some of those big county schools, end up going and taking a contract with the SEC teams? Because of the fact of they're all winning.
Right.
This is changing everything. But I'll tell you this. Does Oklahoma really want to end up going to the SEC? I think now should be the time to start pumping the brakes. Why would you end up leaving the Big 12 and going into the SEC knowing you're going to end up making big money after now this happened? This is the
Didn't
part.
Quarterback want to get transferred from Oklahoma?
Well, oh, yeah, Spencer Rattler. Because the fact of, one, his production levels have not been great, so he's benched. But the problem of it is they were still projecting him as to being the number 1 overall quarterback. Still. But it's not showing it for it this year. It's not to say that Spencer Rattler is a complete miss. He just needs to have a bright new place and at least somewhere. That's why the transfer portal was even created in the first place. So however they're going to make about this, I don't think Oklahoma will be the same. And honestly, I think they're going to get killed in the SEC. I don't think that they really have those pieces and those components that are going to make them better. So why leave the Big 12? Now, after hearing this news with Lincoln Riley going to USC, this now becomes a stint. And I don't think they're going to like what's going to happen in the next 5 years from now. Because you know Saban's going to coach until he's done. Then there's a couple of coaches in the SEC, even in Auburn, even in Florida, and a lot of them in the SEC that are going to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a great day for USC. You ain't had this type of feeling since the Pete Carroll era, and now it's time for making USC great again. Because since that time post-Pete Carroll, Oregon's been successful. Washington had its moments once Chris Pearson was out of office. And then there's Washington State. Washington State ended up becoming competitive in the Pac-12. So there's some competition in there. And the one thing that I did love too, the time when Andrew Luck was a big-time number 1 overall pick, and Andrew Luck was perfect. And that's what also set the tone for Jim Harbaugh to end up taking a deal with the San Francisco 49ers. So Stanford had their moments in the Pac-12. So all it is, USC, this type of move, they're getting aggressive. California is probably one of the most aggressive states that will take aggressive moves. That's just how they are. And so just like this, like how the Dodgers ended up getting Mookie Betts to get a World Series, how the Rams ended up getting Matthew Stafford to getting more wins, and make Sean McVay look like a genius. And the same when it comes to all these other hits all around, the major sports in California. USC is back on the map. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. And I would love to see USC back on the map because they hadn't even been in the college football playoffs since it was created. So imagine that.
We'll see next year if they can make some noise.
Yeah. I like I said, I think this is more of just it's a project, but it's a reboot. It's not something that's going to be a rebuild. I think USC, you're going to eventually see them in the college football playoffs, and maybe at some point might see a national title because this is huge. This is huge. This shocked the whole entire college football realm, and Oklahoma is now starting to think twice about their decision going to the SEC. Coming up next. I think it's pretty. I'm going to tell you right now, after this week, there are contenders and pretenders in this league. We already talked about one of them who I think is a Super Bowl contender, and that's Green Bay. But I'm going to look. Key and I are going to end up listing this down. We'll probably end up skipping quick caps for this week just because of the time. But we definitely would love to see who our contenders and pretenders are. At least the ones that we know that looking into the picture, can they really contend and can they not? And we'll definitely talk about that coming up next. Plus, we'll also have special guests up here talking about Raiders, talking about USC. Eric Flores is going to be joining us here on the show, and also a little bit of Tayrock Hopkins as well. So for all you guys that have heard me all throughout this, and by the way, it's Cyber Monday, there's all sorts of blasting deals going on right now. But we also know, because there's always sales going on our merchandises, but big time deals when it comes to daily fantasy sporting. And you guys love daily fantasy. You guys also love sports and love betting all together as a whole. There is an awesome app for this. I mean, it was cool. I just got myself signed up for one of the big time contests while I was out in California, at least with the service I had. But this is more than just an app. It's bringing us all back together again, loving sports and getting back into the groove of what sports is all about, unifying all of us. And Super Draft Pro is just the place to do so. Super Draft Pro gives you every bit of tools and strategies to up your games in DFS. There's no other DFS system out there that could give you all of the best DFS strategy moves and picks every day, every week. Plus, not only do you get a chance to make money playing free games, but you also get a chance to make money and, of course, the people you share the app with, your friends, your family, coworkers, etc., everybody. So everybody is all a winner, and it's time to come back and be winners all in sports here on Super Draft Pro. And Super Draft Pro is a proud partner of Caesars Entertainment. Want to know more about it? Definitely send us a message, and we will give you all the details on what it's all about. Super Draft Pro. Sign up online or download it on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. That's superdraftpro.com. Sign up like a pro, play like a pro, and share like a pro with Super Draft Pro.
Bitch, I'm a ball. Bitch, I'm a ball. Don't get no ball. Don't get no ball. What's in my cup? What's in my cup? Full of that punch. Look at that punch. Bitch, I'm a ball. Ballin' like Kobe. Ho, keep it moving, cause you do not know me. Bitch, I'm a ball. Ballin' like Kobe. Ho, keep it moving, cause you do not know me. Bitch, I'm a ball. Can't talk in Milwaukee. Tell my dog sick of me. Ain't do no barking. Pass me some greens, you know I'ma spark it. Mama got ass, told her to arch it. Pull up at the spot, hop out and don't park it. Bino say, always keep one in the cartridge. With Joey out pepper, so we going toxic. Came from the swamp to visit the tropics. Check out the scenery. Tell little mama to the backwoods right by the lake.
You know, some people out there, when they talk, they fake the funk. You want brutally honest? Well, if you want brutally honest, look no further than CG Ruthless Sports.
CG Ruthless.
CG Ruthless Sports.
CG Ruthless.
If you want your sports talk to be brutally honest, come check out CG.
CG Ruthless.
If you're not watching CG Ruthless, I don't know what to tell you. Representing the Niner Empire.
CG Ruthless.
As I mentioned over to you guys, there's hot deals going on when it comes to our merchandises, from hats, hoodies, t-shirts, and so much more on the Spotlight Sports Network. Definitely get yourselves geared up and rep for the network, because we know it's holiday season, so there's always the season of giving, and what better than to give some really good merchandise stuff that we have on the Spotlight Sports Network.
15% off this week until the 1st.
There you go. See, you guys do not want to end up missing out on that. So from right on the 15th all the way to the 1st, get your guys' selves some merchandises here from the Spotlight Sports Network and rep for them. And when you do, definitely send us and submit your pictures to us so we can end up showcasing it on our Spotlight Sports gear page on Instagram and also on Facebook. So you definitely do not want to end up missing that. So, of course, like I mentioned before, there's all sorts of excitement that's happening in the SoCal area, and there's nobody better who could end up talking about all the excitement that's happening in USC than our very own colleague here at the Spotlight Sports Network, and first time showing up here on the Snake Sports Talk Show as we are joining live here via the Global Satellite Network presented by StreamYard. Eric Flores here, and talking a lot about Raiders, USC Trojan football, and, of course, some Dodgers and Lakers here today. So let's start with this with USC, because, listen, I don't think we've had a bigger celebration in SoCal since the time of the Pete Carroll era. How big does this have to be with Lincoln Riley officially joining the Trojans?
This is what the Trojans needed. This season didn't go as planned. Of course, the firing of Clay Helton and then Donte Williams stepping up. It wasn't always the best option, but he had to step up as an interim coach. But Lincoln Riley is a proven coach. He has won 85% of his games with Oklahoma in the last 5 seasons. Not only that, he's had 3 playoff appearances. I mean, do I have to keep going? This is big. Just yesterday, I went to the store and I was printing out some SC stuff. And from across the way, across the store, all I hear is fight on Lincoln Riley. I look to left, my left, and then it is, another USC supporter just excited, was telling me how excited he is. And we've seen it all over the news over here in SoCal. I don't know, man. I don't really have to go that much into depth. It's amazing. It's what we needed. I can't wait for next season. And of course, a lot of prospects are still out there in the transfer market in college. And I want to see what Lincoln Riley could do, but I really think he's the guy.
So this will be very interesting for the Trojans moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you this because, again, there were so many big names I grew up watching. I mean, shoot, when I ended up having one of my birthday parties, you know what was the biggest gift I got? Was a Reggie Bush Rose Bowl national championship patch jersey. And I watched it during that time against Texas. That was such a big time heartbreaker, but it was the biggest feeling. I mean, majority of my family are all SoCal fans, so they love the Trojans. They're just as excited as everybody there. And I'll tell you, because with this move itself, I mean, there were a lot of complications when it came to the recruitments. And you think about it, if you look at all through the Cal Tri-State area, I mean, it's chock filled of 4-star, 5-star recruits, all coming up from California. And I remember watching growing up several times the CIF playoffs, and I loved watching them. Though I think that was the most competitive, like at least high school, as far as a conference goes, so exciting. Because there were a lot of these high school kids that you could see as future college stars and eventually become NFL pros. So does this now up the recruitment process? Because in the past, a lot of these kids that were out of California all wanted to take jobs that were out in SEC. So does this now set the tone and the marker? Lincoln Riley's coming into town. It's going to end up in the chances of maybe these 5-star recruits from California to end up joining USC.
Yes, it is. I mean, like you said, like you mentioned, Lincoln Riley is just that guy. And when you bring a top-notch coach like Lincoln Riley, you're telling yourself and you're telling the fan base and you're telling the whole SoCal area, you want to win. You want to turn this around. And the best way to do that is with getting these high stars prospects. There's one I've been following. I think he just committed. I think his name is Damani Jackson, the cornerback. He's like 6'1" or something like that. He's coming out of, I believe, one of the I can't mention. I forgot the high school, but it is over here in the SoCal area. Just having prospects like that, having these freshmen like he's going to be paired up with somebody named Sirhir Wright, the other cornerback and the freshman. It's just everything's just falling in line. Like I said, we're going to see in the next coming weeks who commits here, who commits to the draft, because there is some USC players that could commit to the NFL draft and could stay another year. A perfect example of this is Troy Polamalu's nephew, Isaiah Polamau, one of the best safeties, I think, in the whole Pac-12, the Big 12, of course. And we just got to see. I don't know. It just mind boggles me of what's going to happen. There's so many things going through my mind, and it's just leaving me blank because you could take one path, you could take one path here, and you could take one path here. I don't know. I'm just excited. Like I said, I'm speechless. I don't know really what to say about what's going to happen, what's his ideas, but I do know that this USC team is going to be one of the best next year.
Now, of course, because of the fact of, we talk about Oklahoma for a little bit and what now is going to be the rippling effect for them, because we were there when, the news story broke out that Texas and Oklahoma wanted to leave the Big 12 to go to the SEC. After hearing news about this, it almost kind of feels like Oklahoma probably should have hit the brakes on this one, because first of all, the only programs that really shaped the Big 12 was Texas, Oklahoma, bits and pieces of Baylor, because it's all right within the Midwest, and so I just think after hearing this, Oklahoma's going to have a lot of hits, and they're probably going to end up tearing down. Now, one of those, I know it seems like it was a down year for quarterback Spencer Rattler, but do you think this could be something that Lincoln Riley has in his back pocket to say, look, if this isn't working out in Oklahoma, I can maybe potentially bring Spencer to USC through the draft portal. And could that be something that USC could be a turnaround for Spencer Rattler?
Rattler was somebody that is arguably and probably is the best thing in the transfer portal right now. Rattler, of course, got benched. I still think he's a great player. And sometimes what these players need is a change of scenery. And I know the whole USC fan base right now is split on him. But I think he would be a perfect fit. I think coming with a coach that you already know, that you're well connected to, is the best thing he could do. And just leaving Oklahoma and coming to a SoCal where arguably he could have the starting job here is perfect for him. So I think a change of scenery will do him good. I think USC is the place for him, of course, with this coach coming here. And I mean, it's just the perfect fit. And if it doesn't happen, I'm still high on Jackson Dart, because I believe Keaton Slovis might end up committing to the NFL draft. I'm not sure if he's going to for sure, but I think it's an 80% chance. So I'm still big on Jackson or Dart, but having a person like Rattler on the market is something that USC needs to keep an eye on.
Eric Flores joining me here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. So let's shift gears over to the Raiders, because that seemed like it was a big time win on Thanksgiving. Now, I think Key and we ended up agreeing that, I just don't think Dallas really just does well in Thanksgiving, games in the last couple of seasons that they play. But I think that's the best look from Derek Carr that we've seen since last week. I think that's a better look. Now, I feel like it's a lingering thing when it comes to Raider fans, because of initially they all wanted to just jump ship on the Derek Carr thing and they wanted him gone. How exactly are the Raiders really going to deal away with this? Because first of all, the Chargers end up losing, and Denver right now seems to be cooking. The Raiders end up getting the win, and then Kansas City right now is just kind of knocking up on the doors. So is there still kind of a light at the end of the tunnel right now for the Raiders' chances, if they can, to push a playoff spot?
There is. I like to call this the Wild Wild West. I think you've called that before. It's crazy. It's crazy. The Broncos winning was arguably the best thing that could, I'm sorry, I know you're a Chargers fan, but probably the best thing for us Raider fans right now. It still gives us the light. The AFC is just tough. I think the Raiders have the playoffs in their hand, as well as the Broncos, as well as the Chargers, and as well as the Chiefs. The Raiders needed a game like against the Cowboys, because as you've seen weeks before, the 3-game losing streak was tearing the Raider fan base, the Raider organization apart. So what we needed was Derek Carr to step up, and he did, and he proved the haters wrong. And I think that Cowboy game is just going to make him even better. He started being more, more mobile. That's something that a lot of people were wanting him to be, and he is starting to be like that. But yeah, the Raiders have it in the palm of their hands. It's only them to control their destiny. We say that every year, and it ends up being bad for us. But hopefully the Cowboys game gave them the juice they needed for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and again, this was kind of the rough last couple 2-3 weeks that have happened for the Raiders because of the fact of obviously the John Gruden tweets, the Henry Ruggs situation, then Damon Arnett ends up getting cut, and then all of a sudden it's just, you drop a dud game against the Giants, and then, what next? So I just feel like hopefully this could be the juice for the Raiders, but thinking about the coaching scenarios, because we know that right now they're under an interim head coach. Are they really sold on him, or do you think kind of like in the off season they might end up having to take their businesses elsewhere and maybe find a potential head coach that could lead this team all the way here in Las Vegas?
I think there's two possibilities that could happen. It's either we make the playoffs and they get sold on Rich Bisaccia, or we miss the playoffs and we just clean house as far as the coaching staff, especially on the offensive side. I've heard that they haven't had talks with anybody yet, which I kind of call kind of skeptical, kind of sus that they haven't had talks. But I think Rich Bisaccia is a great guy. I don't think he's going to be a great head coach. I think that's why in his whole career, for a long time, he's always been in the background. He hasn't been the main focus of a head coach. And I think that's how it should stay because he's good with players. But as a head coaching job, I don't think he's right for the job. But like I said, it's up to Mark Davis. What does he do? And I think it all depends if we make the playoffs or not.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, and I do think that he was doing a really, really good job in the last couple of weeks and, trying to keep this team together at the same time. And really just trying to keep the consistency with the Raiders because it just seems like there was so much inconsistencies and it seems like, they're trying to figure this whole thing out. I mean, there's not a number one wide receiver. We don't even know exactly who it is, but we did see a lot of some good spurts from Deshaun Jackson last week. And then on top of it, like it just seemed like the playbook looked fluid. Like it looked very fluent from that spot. Then it's like, what do we do on the offensive line? Because at times it could hit or it could miss. So, and I do think, sometimes during the stretches, this is always the toughest. We know this for sure because it's a time where they got to push for the playoffs. It's always post-Thanksgiving. And I do think looking at the remaining schedule right now for the Raiders, because it's heavy right now. It's top end heavy because they have a bunch of division rivals they have to end up playing against, not to mention the Chargers at the end of the season. So does it kind of seem like, in these next couple of weeks, it's going to be a lot tougher and hopefully that the Raiders can be able to get this juice that they had against the Cowboys to lead them all the way through in these remaining weeks?
Yeah, like you said, they're tough. Washington is a team where I don't know what Washington we're gonna get on Sunday. They're a good team. I know the record says otherwise, but they're better than the record, I think so. Of course, Jack Del Rio's coming back in town, so that's gonna be one game to watch. And there's a lot of AFC playoff contenders that we're gonna play. Of course, our division alone, and you still have the Browns and the Colts. The Browns just lost to the Ravens, so that kind of benefits us. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, do we beat our division rivals? That's what it's going to come down to. We already are 0-1 against the Chiefs, 0-1 against the Chargers. Are we going to bounce back and make it 1-1? Only time could tell. But I think after that Cowboys game, it's a good way to be like, okay, we still have that juice. This Washington game is going to really show me what this team's about. It's all about consistency, and we have to see it from now on. If we go on like a 2-game, 3-game win streak, then it's going to really show me that this team is determined to win. But if we lose against Washington, hopefully not, it's going to show me otherwise.
Yeah. Eric Flores joining me here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Let's shift to gears and end up talking a little bit of some LA Lakers because I know a lot of people right now, like the thing of it is, I said this, like the second, because we know LA is a city that's chock full of stars. They love their stars. I think the Lakers are doing the complete opposite of what Kobe Bryant did years ago with the fact that he got Gary Payton and Karl Malone and that entire stacked Lakers squad. But besides all of that, you look at LeBron and you look at Anthony Davis and everyone else on this Laker roster. It seems old. It seems slow. And there's just so much of this. Now, I can respect the fact that they all have experiences, but I'm not completely sold really on just the Lakers as a whole because the fact that I said this looks almost like a senior home. They're just bringing all of these stars and even past stars that were big time, all NBAs here to the Lakers because it's a branding thing. Do you think this has to be something that the Lakers really need to look at internally? Because after giving away Kyle Kuzma and a lot of these young kids, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of just youth in the building. So is this going to be something that they really have to thoroughly look at either during or maybe into next season?
I mean, I think they should take a look at it regardless. This Laker team, I think so, regardless of age, regardless of anything, I think is better than 90% of teams on paper. And this is on paper. On the court, it's a whole different story. I can name 9 better Western Conference teams than us right now. And it's sad to say as a Lakers fan, but it's the truth. It starts off with the coaching staff, the management, And like you said, we've been giving up people like Julius Randle, D'Angelo Russell, Lonzo Ball, and they're all getting better the season after they leave us. And I get it. We bring LeBron, and LeBron's known for bringing the stars, bringing everybody he wants. But, we got to realize that bringing like 8+ free agents is not going to do us well. The chemistry is off. Everything is just ridiculous. And we need to take a look at the management. I'm always going to say this. I don't know what's wrong with the Buss family right now, and I don't know what they be doing. And I know they want to win now, but we're not winning now. And they need to take a look at it on the trade deadline. They need to take a look at it in the offseason right now. And I think there's a lot of people on the hot seat, and one specific person that should be on the hot seat is Frank Vogel. I don't think he's a good coach at all. I really don't. And even when we won the championship, I still said his rotations were questionable.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I mean, you think of Frank Vogel, who had gone into the playoffs several times, even in his tenure with the Indiana Pacers, and then of course this championship run with the Lakers. But a lot of people could even say, this had to have been LeBron's dealing, because the fact of he's been capable of doing this no matter what coach it was, and the only exceptions to that rule was definitely Eric Spoelstra. And that's the reason that Miami ended up making it into the finals. And, the rest of the story is history. But yeah, I just feel like this is a complete mess. Something has to be done. I mean, this doesn't seem like the actual Buss rule that it was from years ago. So it feels like there just needs to be there needs to be something new. It needs to be a new recipe, something that can cook up to get the Lakers back on track, where they're more than capable of especially a lot of these teams that have a lot of these young stars. So they got to get themselves back into contention in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they really do. I've seen something I just want to add on to it. With Anthony Davis, what he said in the press conference, I know players like Anthony Davis know what to say and know how to say it. He said something along the lines of the 10-game streak starts now, and that in 10 games from now, we're going to prove a lot of people wrong. Do I believe it? It's hard to believe it, especially with the season that's going on. But if he shuts me up, if we see in the next 10 games we win, they're going to shut me up, and they're going to shut up a lot of the media. But until I see something change, especially with the Kings coming up, we went to 3 overtimes against them without 2 of their stars in Holmes and Barnes, which is embarrassing, and we still ended up losing. I know a lot of people are hyping up Westbrook, his last 5 games, but I'd rather get a win than triple doubles. That's where I'm going to leave that at. But they have to prove it wrong. We got the Clippers, Celtics, Grizzlies, all great teams. And if they beat all 3, we could really talk about a turnaround in the Laker organization. If not, I think Frank Vogel has to be on the hot seat, and I think mid-season he should be gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I like. And it's funny thinking about that with the games against Sacramento Kings and just all throughout the stretch. I mean, this is kind of the reality with Russell Westbrook, is that I think he is a very talented player. He's also very hyper athletic, but not a guy that you would really trust as far as really kind of taking the bigger step in the leap forward, with the fact of, like, we saw what happened in Oklahoma City. We've seen at the times of like what happened in Houston. So it just kind of leaves you to think, this is just who they are. This is just the reality that you see from a lot of these players here for the Lakers. So let's get to the big fish now, because this was big news that popped up at least close to an hour ago, but it's finalized. Corey Seager's headed to the Texas Rangers for 10 years, $325 million. How are Dodger fans really coping with this after just this signing alone?
One word: horrible. This is just horrible news. I wanted Corey Seager to stay. I really did. I'm pretty sure he's seen the money, and he's seen that we ended up getting Trey Turner, that plays the main position as Corey Seager. So he probably seen it as, new scenery. I could be the main star, and I got the bag that I deserve. And I don't think the Dodgers were capable of paying him that much. So congrats to Corey Seager for getting that pay. He did deserve it. Thank you for everything you've done for the Dodgers. But us Dodger fans right now are not at the best place. As you know, most of us are also Laker fans, so it's kind of a double whammy. But hopefully the Dodgers could do something. I know they still got money in the bank. Scherzer, as you know, also is leaving most likely.
Gone to the Mets for 3 years.
Yeah. So the best thing we can do is pick up somebody well to be in the place of him, or re-sign some key players. Maybe Kershaw coming back. I would love that if the deal's there. If the deal's cheap, I don't think he's worth the bag, but I think he is worth some type. But we just gotta see what the Dodgers do. They've been very quiet, very quiet. So it's been surprising, and we just gotta see what happens there. But I think Trey Turner is our future on that shortstop, regardless.
And it's kind of funny of just how it all just shifted, because of the fact of, during the trade deadline, the Dodgers ended up making one of the biggest moves of going and getting Max Scherzer, which was originally their big time target. And then they just throw Trey Turner in the middle of the mix. So in all, it doesn't seem like the Dodgers are really kind of like, in a sense, quote unquote, falling apart after this move. I do agree with you. Like, I would have loved to have seen Corey Seager at least retire a Dodger, because I think that part of that was just the growth and development that we've seen him during the minor leagues and then make it into the show. And we've seen a lot of really good things, and then get healthy at the right time in a shortened season, playing in the World Series, and how it all panned out for the Dodgers. So, yeah, this one definitely stings, but I feel like if there's just anything that the Dodgers really could do, it's just focusing up on the pitching. I mean, part of that reason, even with Turner, was filling in that second base void, because the fact of we weren't sure if Gavin Lux was really going to be, ready and primed up, but now it seems like he's kind of hitting his spot. And then now, I look at it like Kershaw. I feel like, in my opinion, he probably should just take a 1-year deal and just retire like at the end of it, because he's already done his dues. He's already been proven as the best left-handed pitcher probably since, Sandy Koufax. And so I just think that this focus, maybe at some point the Dodgers probably could use some help in the rotation at some point.
They can. They do need it. I want to start off with what you said in the beginning. The Dodgers, what they pulled last season with the national trade was a Rams move. I want to call it LA Rams move. With them getting Von Miller, getting OBJ is similar here. You're getting a great shortstop, a great young shortstop in Trey Turner. You're getting one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball in a decade, Max Scherzer. And you were saying, when now? Injuries kind of cost us, but that's no excuse at the end of the day. I think the best thing we can do right now is be a little chill, because right now our hearts are pumping after what we just lost. But, like you said, the 1-year deal for Kershaw would be perfect. Getting Chris Taylor back would be amazing. Chris Taylor was stepping it up and was the reason why we won most of the games at the end of our season and in the playoffs. But yeah, I think that's the best way. Focus on your player, your re-signing players, focus on the pitching, focus on getting everybody healthy at the end of the day. Health is the best thing for us. Availability is the best skill set. And I mean, yeah, that's all the Dodgers could really do right now. And maybe they could pull something out of the bag, but we just got to see in the next coming days.
Absolutely love it, man. Great to have you up onto the show, Eric. Love to have you on here more often. I mean, like I said, it's always fun when we have a lot of really, really good content creators here on this show, and especially a lot of former athletes, coaches, so much more. Really do appreciate your takes on what's been happening on it. Good luck to the USC Trojans moving forward with the fact of Lincoln Riley being now the new head coach and what the future will look like for the Trojans. I'm just as excited as you are, hopefully, to see, SoCal be back to where it once was. And then hopefully we'll see what happens, in the next coming days for the Raiders and for the Dodgers, and see what happens with the Lakers moving forward. But always good to have you up on here. Appreciate you. Where can people find you here, Eric?
I barely made a YouTube channel called SC Raiders Talk, also known as SoCal Raiders Talk. I will end up getting the link in the description for the Spotlight Sports Network, but I'm in the works of it. But that's where you can find me. That's where I'm gonna start off.
There you go, guys. SoCal Raiders Talk is where you can find Eric Flores up on here. Great to have you up on here. We'll definitely
Appreciate you.
catch up with you later, and hope you have a good one.
You too. Have a good one, y'all.
Eric Flores, absolutely loved it. Great content today. And, and it's funny because I do remember those times with USC, with the fact that, you look at the Pete Carroll era and what that was all about. I mean, Carson Palmer, really good quarterback. Matt Leinart, really good quarterback. And then some people would argue, Mark Sanchez at the time before he ended up going to the Jets.
Matt Barkley.
Yeah, Matt Barkley. I mean, God, nobody even remembers John David Booty. Like that guy.
How can you forget that name?
I was just like, he was just a 1-year wonder, and then that was it. Like, I never really saw so much potential in him in the NFL. But if you're talking about, college and looking at all of these college stars, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. This really revamps Southern California, and hopefully this will make the Pac-12 a lot more interesting than people think. But again, I'm just saying this. I just think that this was the worst move for Texas and Oklahoma, honestly, to end up going for Big 12 to the SEC. So, but we'll see. I don't know. I mean, hopefully fate hasn't stored for itself, but I don't know. All righty, Keith. So looking into all of this, so we'll do our mixture actually of just quick caps because we'll end up skipping the, the hot press and etc. So we'll definitely do our quick caps, but we'll definitely do our contenders and pretenders right now because we're looking at every single one of the teams in the AFC and in the NFC. So
and some changes too in that list.
There has been. So we'll definitely list it up together. So first of all, we definitely talked about the Packers. I said that they are contenders. They're more than that. I think this is our Super Bowl favorite in the NFC. First of all, they're not reacting. Even with 6 of their best players on the roster, they managed to beat Arizona. They managed to beat the Rams. This is a team that's no joke this year. I was really thinking, this was a team that was probably going to play a little cute, not really, like very flashy, but they're actually playing some hardcore football, and they're actually really, really playing to the best of their extent right now. So I do think the Packers are contenders. I really do think they are.
Was talking about their defense as well. But their defense has stepped up. I know Zaire Alexander isn't playing, but the one person on that defense that's stepping up, and us Eagles fans know who he is Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas has bounced around so many leagues, 6 teams, I believe it was, and he's found a place in Green Bay, and then he's stepping up for that defense.
Yeah. All right. So Baltimore Ravens, contenders or pretenders?
Right now, they are the number 1 seed in the AFC. I think they're going to be one and done again. They're going to be one and done.
Yeah, I mean, I do see them as being contenders, but I agree with you. I think one and done. I just love the chemistry, though, that they do have. But I just don't think they really have enough of the pieces. I know Matt Judon was a huge loss for them. But you still do have Patrick Queen that you're building up. And then the rest of, they were dealing with injuries at the running back position. They were dealing with injuries, toward the line. So this has truly been a tough season, but to still be 8-3 and going on to week 13, I think it's going to be interesting. I do think they're contenders, but I don't think they're really going to make it all the way.
Right.
New England Patriots, contenders or pretenders?
They're definitely contenders. Mac Jones is doing something special. That's the best quarterback out the draft right now, and Belichick knows how to bring up quarterbacks. Look at Tom Brady. Even though, Tom Brady didn't get drafted first round, but Tom Brady got drafted 6th round. Nobody knew who this kid was. And look, 8 Super Bowls later, he's special. So definitely New England is definitely a contender.
Yeah, I do agree. I think this is after watching how this team played in the last couple weeks and how that they have really been grooving. I truly think that the Patriots may be more than just contenders I just feel like because of the mind of Bill Belichick and how this team really just sticks together. I mean, they're making mockeries out of all of the rest of the AFC, outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. They're making a mockery out of them because everybody's getting new, shiny, flashy pieces or new coaches. And then on top of that, there's trade deadlines. New England just trusts their group. And on top of it, Mac Jones is as smarter as people think, better than Zach Wilson, definitely better than most people anticipated. So I think this was a big-time hit. I think this was kind of the thing Bill Belichick needed. So I think just nobody should sleep on this. I do think New England might be more than contenders, but watch out for them. Arizona Cardinals, contenders or pretenders?
I think they definitely can be contenders. We'll see if when Kyler Murray comes back, is he gonna have any rust once he comes back? But Arizona's still been on top. They 9-2 right now. So I mean,
yeah,
nobody has taken them down yet. So they definitely are going to be contenders.
So this is how I feel about the Arizona Cardinals. They're definitely contenders, but my thing is, I think this may be a one and done team. And I'll be completely honest. For a fact that even during Kyler Murray's absence, there were at least a couple shakeups, at least from some of the playmakers at the wide receiver position. Because I know what I'm going to get at DeAndre Hopkins. Plus, it's great that they actually ended up getting veterans. I'm just not completely sure because in order for me to really be sold on it, you got to show me exactly can you or can you not deal with that much duress, with that much pressure, with those injuries. The Packers showed me exactly who they are, and I think they're more than capable, even with 6 of their best out. Arizona only has Kyler Murray out, and there's still pieces there. So it's questionable, but I think the Cardinals are contenders, but I do think that they may be one and done. They may end up winning one playoff game, and then that might end up being it. Because if you see the Cardinals and Packers again, that's going to be fun to watch. All right. San Francisco 49ers, contenders or pretenders?
Man. I know right now they did slip in. They're actually a wild card right now since they did beat Minnesota. They are in that that 6th spot. I'm gonna say pretenders.
Wow. I think you know what? It's funny. I think this is a toss-up team because they're actually going to be 3 things. They're going to be either contenders, pretenders, or spoilers because
True.
It's funny because, you look at San Francisco. Now, they did win 3 in a row. And maybe part of that is just something that Kyle Shanahan's really kind of working his way up on his magic. But, I mean, this could easily be a team that could sneak their way into the playoffs. We know that injuries have been a big thing, especially running backs. Some defensive players been hurt here and there. And then, of course, the trusting the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. So I don't know. I'm still kind of tossed up on that. But I think San Francisco, I think they'll be pretenders, but don't get me wrong. They may end up spoiling some of these NFC teams' playoff chances. Minnesota Vikings, contenders or pretenders?
Which one now?
Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, Kirk Cousins. He's invited to the barbecue. But that was a hard physical game yesterday. I don't know. Kirk don't do good in the playoffs. Minnesota hasn't been in the playoffs since the AFC Championship game. Yeah. I'm gonna say they fall off too. Yeah, I got them as pretenders.
Yeah, I think this team's pretenders. I think at the end, but this is how I think Minnesota is going to basically deal with this at the end of the year. They're going to be done with Kirk Cousins. They're probably going to end up being done with Mike Zimmer. I just love all of these offensive pieces, though, for Minnesota, which sucks because you would think this would be a team that could go over the top, especially in their own division in the NFC North. But the fact that the quarterback's not right, head coaching's kind of questionable. Now, the defense is still cooking its way up, but there are at least some opportunities for them to get better. But I do think Minnesota, they're going to be pretenders this year, but next year may be different for them because you got to get a better quarterback in place, and you also got to end up seeing who's really your option for head coach. Okay, Philadelphia Eagles, contenders or pretenders?
Jesus. As much as I want to say they possibly could be contenders, I got them still going to be on the outside looking in. Yesterday was a definitely good shot for them to move up in that ranking, but they still have the rest of the easy schedule. I'm going to say they're going to be pretenders, but they could play spoiler.
They could. I think they could. I mean, Philadelphia, it's really interesting. I can't figure out Nick Sirianni to the life of me because there have been really good spurts where the Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts has been on. And now, of course, he did have an ankle injury, and we'll see exactly how that works out. But, all in all, I think the Eagles are really kind of picking their ways back up to being a better team. But I'm with you. I feel like they're going to be pretenders. I think this is just right now they're actually evaluating everything the Eagles have and really just trying to come up with an answer of what it is they need to figure out going into next year. Indianapolis Colts, contenders or pretenders?
I think they could be pretenders, actually. They on the outside looking in, even though they lost to the Bucks, which that game was very competitive yesterday, back and forth. The Colts has been showing some noise. Carson Wentz has been playing kind of good. He only had 2 interceptions before he threw like 3 or 2 yesterday, but still, Carson Wentz is looking good. Jonathan Taylor's running. I think he could be MVP. I got the Colts sneaking in. I'm gonna say they pretenders.
I think they're definitely contenders for sure. I think this is interesting for the Colts, and I've said this in the previous shows that this is a team getting healthier at the right time because they know that this is the back half of the season, and then the remaining schedule is not really that much. So I think the Colts, we knew the first 5 weeks was going to be rough and how that they were going to man everybody together, but the Colts has looked a lot better. And even in a tough loss, I still think it was a competitive loss against the Tampa Bay Bucks this week. But I do think the Colts right now are definitely a team that could be contenders. And as we've said before, from one of our colleagues, trying to push for an AFC championship. So I would love to see how the Colts really man themselves together. It'll be interesting. LA Chargers, contenders or pretenders?
Right now the Chargers hold that 7th spot. If they keep losing, somebody that's in the hunt is going to take their spot, like the Colts. As much as it sucks for me to say, Jake, I don't know. I think they might fall off. I'm gonna say they're going to be pretenders.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. As much as I would love to say that the Chargers could potentially be contenders, they don't look like it. They're looking more like pretenders because the fact of the matter is now this is this is actually the first loss in the division this time. They're 2-0. They beat the Raiders. They beat they ended up beating the Chiefs. Now the back half of the season they know is heavy because of the fact of because next week you got Cincinnati and then you got the Giants and then the rest of them are all in division. So that whole back half is very heavy because the Chiefs want payback. They probably want payback against Denver, and then the Raiders end up wanting to win at home. So it's not as easy as people think it is. So, and I said about this before because the run defense is atrocious. Parts of it, I think, is inconsistency and being cute. And because this is time to just get serious. But are you going to get a serious Chargers team or are you not? So that's what's the headache. But I feel like this could be a pretender. This could very much be a pretender. Heartbreaker for Charger fans because all they wanted is that they just wanted better for this team. Cleveland Browns finally. Contenders or pretenders?
Pretenders. Can't trust in Baker Mayfield. OBJ's going there. I mean, they got a good running game between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's Baker Mayfield. It's just, he's too arrogant for his own good. He don't care what's going on in Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland's going to extend him. I think he may be gone with Cleveland. Do he need to change the senior rate? Change the senior rate? All these other quarterbacks do. It's possible, but he's not the answer for Cleveland. So that's Cleveland are pretenders.
Yeah, I agree. I think, honestly, Cleveland are pretenders. I love their defense. I also do love their offensive line and their running core. Again, they are not OBJ reliant. And ultimately, after losing OBJ, it didn't really matter much because we saw that even during the injury where Jarvis Landry was lights out. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones. You got Rashard Higgins. You got a lot of really good people. So, who knows? I do think, though, that Cleveland needs to figure out their quarterback position. Baker Mayfield doesn't seem to be the answer to clear the shows. So I think there's just a lot of things you really kind of have to put into context. But so far, we'll do pretenders and contenders again. So far, these have only been just the teams, at least just what I'm thinking right now. But we'll definitely hit up on to quick caps. So as usual, what's going on, Mike Hughes? What's happening, everybody? I really do appreciate every single one of you guys being here.
Needs to burn to the ground.
Oh, look, they've been a dumpster fire organization for years, man. I mean, this is only just their happy moment. So, so as we do every back half of the show, and we do every week, is we call it quick caps because we all just have our thinking caps on and recapping every single one of the games from this week. So it'll be interesting. And I'd love to see this. So again, a lot of these games during Thanksgiving, then all throughout this week, and then we've got the Monday night game tonight. So here we go. So let's start off with our Thanksgiving games, which we had. There were 3 of them. Bears, Lions. Is the turkey done yet? I mean, watching this game between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, first of all, Cairo Santos winning the game-winning field goal, it just clearly showed that the strings were getting tighter on Matt Nagy. They're nagging their ways on what exactly are the Bears going to end up doing. I mean, Andy Dalton actually looked decent in this game, but at the same time, it's still the same Detroit woes. You're still having a lot of these issues. They're 0-10-1. I don't really know where their first win is really going to come out. I thought they was going
to pull their first win off. The thing is, the Lions is they are competitive. They still competitive in games. When I think that they're going to win, they're not. But they had a lot of penalties that game. That penalties killed them.
Wow. Yeah, I really do think so. I thought it was very, very interesting. Raiders, Cowboys, Carr running smooth. So first quarterback in Vegas history with 300-plus passing yards on Thanksgiving. This was a hell of a game. Went into overtime and then ended up winning it 36-33. So, look, I think at this point, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, they're 7-4 right now. This is not the easiest in the back half of the season because the Eagles could be spoilers. The Giants could be spoilers. So can Washington. But at the end of the day, Raiders got to figure out what exactly is it to fix their inconsistencies. But I thought that's the best I saw in Carr this Thanksgiving. And the Cowboys, they're now 1-3, or actually 1-4 against AFC West teams. One of the 3, because at least they beat the Chargers. That's the only team. They lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Broncos, and then they end up losing to the Raiders. So, and now Mike McCarthy is now, yeah, he's now on COVID protocol. And finally, for Thursday, Bills Saints. Hurd running through NOLA. Yeah, Buffalo 31-6. That was like a boring end. Like, you know what's funny is when you're at the Thanksgiving table I mean, the best courses, the turkey, the stuffing, and then there's a couple of like those clutch sides, and then you have the rolls. Nobody's going to mess around, not a whole lot with the yams or the cranberries. I felt like this game was the cranberries.
It was the cranberry sauce.
It was the cranberry sauce. Nobody was going to mess around with the Bills and Saints. Are you kidding? Like, that was it. So I just felt like Buffalo needed something, but I don't know. I'm still right now, I'm concerned about Buffalo. They get a big win against a team that's really got a lot of other issues on their plate, but good win for them. All right, so Sunday's games, Bucks, Colts.
That was a good game.
Actually, great game.
Yeah.
Tom Brady now 9-0 against the Colts since 2010. That's including the playoffs. By the way, I mean, the Colts still manage, even with this loss. I don't think this is a bad day for Colts fans still, because even if you lose by a touchdown, everybody's healthy. Jonathan Taylor was kind of limited to some running plays, but he actually ran well. And I just think this is still kind of a concern for Tampa Bay moving forward. But this is kind of the same team we saw last year. They were having at least some ups and downs, but they were still winning games. They were still trusting in each other. But I do think the Colts are still healthier, even regardless of a win or loss. I'd watch out for the Colts moving forward. Titans, Patriots, Belichick tightening the ropes. Yeah, Belichick, as we know, New England outscoring opponents 135-33 over the last 3 home games. And I mean, he's outscored a lot of these opponents at home. The Patriots are not done. They're not. They're clearly going to be the team that's making a lot of noise. They're pushing their way in through the playoffs. And I do think they might actually get deeper into the playoffs. They have a lot of really good, they have a lot of reliable pieces. They have depth, and they trust each other. I think trusting in a lot of what Bill Belichick's mind is all about and making their way into the playoffs and further and beyond, I think is what's the focal point. Jets, Texans.
That was a dumpster fire game.
Pull your Jets, Houston. Yeah, that first win against Houston since 2010 in Week 11, and it lost 3 straight. But when Joe Flacco was, or actually Zach Wilson was quarterbacking. Yeah, he was quarterbacking. So how about that? A much impressive win, but I still think that was a snooze of a game. Still a snooze of a game. Eagles, Giants. Oh, gigantic stomp.
It hurt yesterday. It really did.
Yeah. The Giants now have won 2 straight games against Philadelphia and have lost the previous 8. So, in a low-scoring game, 13-7, wasn't like it was like really pretty. I mean, they were coming off of games where they were scoring 30 points. Jalen Reagor is just not working it with Philadelphia. I don't understand this, but Donte Smith
was funny.
is still
I
a beast.
went back today and looked at that video. Who is Jalen? Who? And
What the heck is Jalen Reagor?
I was like, who is this? Yeah, it was not happy. So
yeah, clearly, I don't think we all know who Jalen Reagor is now at this end. Panthers, Dolphins. Tua looked better. Yeah, Tua, highest completion percentage, actually, in a game with a quarterback with 30-plus passing attempts, 87. So that's actually a lot better.
Jalen Waddle went off yesterday, too, 127 yards.
I think this is what's funny.
He finally had a breakout game.
And isn't it funny, though, if you don't have Devontae Smith and you don't have Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs or any of them, I think Jalen Waddle, you just got to let this thing cook with the 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I think Jalen, because isn't that the reason why Jalen Waddle ended up going to the Dolphins? Because of that reason. So I liked it. I liked it. I thought it was an impressive win.
And Cam got benched. So
yeah, Cam got benched. So there, again, more quarterback issues with the Carolina Panthers. Good Lord. Steelers, Bengals, Pats stealing the fire.
It's time for Ben to retire. He's done in Pittsburgh. It's over.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about this? This is the first time in Big Ben's career. he's lost 3 straight starts against Cincinnati. Isn't that embarrassing?
Wow, really?
First time in his career, and he's beaten Carson Palmer. He has beaten Ryan Finley. So, wow. But again, Joe Burrow, I'll say this. This will be my spoiler for the next episode, but I do think the Bengals are contenders. Surprisingly, because we looked at this offensive line and we were concerned with how they were going to protect Joe Burrow, but this worked out better. They are much better opponents against their own division. So I think the Bengals, this has just been really, really good for them.
And it's not just Chase that Jamar Chase did not have a great game like he usually does. It was all T. Higgins like yesterday. So this proves that Joe Burrow can throw it to somebody else besides Chase.
Yeah. Falcons, Jaguars, Ryan's urban story. Yeah, 4-0 against the Jags in his career. Not exactly a really sexy score, 21-14. I mean,
they almost lost.
Yeah, they almost lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you really deal with all that. But yeah, that was
it's time for Matt Ryan to hang it up too.
I think it's just a change of scenery for Matt Ryan, honestly. I mean, you could probably get at least 2 years, but that's about it.
Well,
Chargers
30, 35, 36. He up there in age.
pretty much. I mean, you get 2 years at least, and then we see where it goes from there. Chargers, Broncos, mile high shocker. 28-13. This is now Denver. Here's what's funny. Patrick Surtain now is the first Denver rookie with 2 interceptions in a game since one legendary Bronco, Steve Atwater. That's it. Yeah. First rookie. And so that speaks a lot of volumes and how big of a hit Patrick Surtain really is. But again, this was a letdown for the Chargers. Inconsistencies again, and just nobody buttoned up. So they got to figure this out next week against Cincinnati. But Denver could slowly sneak in. I don't know, but there's some things that could be brewing and could be saving Vic Fangio's job. Rams, Packers, pack it up, Stafford. Packers winning at 36-28, even without the 6 of their starters. 4-0 at home against the Rams, including the playoffs for Aaron Rodgers. So it's clear. I mean, the Rams, they had a big loss against San Francisco. This is now a bigger loss against, the Packers. I'm a little bit concerned about the Rams.
Definitely.
I mean, this was a big home run swing for them, but I don't know. I don't know how long that this thing could really even go. Vikings 49ers.
That was a good game.
San Fran seeing gold. First wide receiver, Deebo Samuel, with 2 rushing touchdowns in a game in the Super Bowl era. Kyle Shanahan, I think, is kind of playing, we're either getting in or we're spoiling. I think that's how he's playing it all throughout this whole rest of the season. But it was a good win for the 49ers against Minnesota. Browns, Ravens. Action Jackson.
Can't believe he had 4 touchdowns and still won.
First quarterback to win a game with 4+ interceptions since week 17 in 2013 from Andy Dalton.
Ooh.
Yeah. And again, I don't know how you recover from that. I think you're kind of like, thank God we won.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
I can't be happy about that performance.
I do love this Browns defense, but the quarterback just isn't right. Hopefully they'll figure this out at some point during the offseason. And finally, Seahawks and Washington. Heineke turns the tables. I think, honestly, this has been bad for Seattle. And I think tonight, Washington could come away with something. I even though I do think Seattle might end up winning this game, but I don't think this will be easy because you're on the road. The team doesn't look great. Offensive line looks terrible. But I think, honestly, this will be a close enough game. I give this a 2-point margin tonight. I give that a 2-point margin. I think Seattle might come away with the win, but Washington might actually show some spurts here against Seattle. I think Taylor Heineke is going to look really, really good tonight. So
I still got Seattle winning that game. It's time for Russell to get out his slump.
yeah, I mean, I just say this. I think Russell needs a new change of scenery.
He's another one.
Well, guys, I really do appreciate you coming on by here up onto the show. We will catch you guys in the next episode. Hope you guys all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. We appreciate all of you guys, and we do see you guys on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care. Thank you so much for jumping on, Key.
No
We'll see you
problem.
guys in the next episode. Take care.